Dinner was just so lovely, and lots of good feelings and good memories made. So I would like to call to order the Kentucky Community and Technical College System Board of Regents meeting. The time is 9:01 a.m. The press was notified of the meeting on June 2. The Honorable Pam Duncan, KCTCS General Counsel, will serve as parliamentarian. I would like to ask Hannah Rivera to please call the roll.
Okay. Chair Newton.
Here.
Lisa Damaris.
Here.
Regent Fletcher.
Present.
Regent Allen.
Here.
Regent Hyman.
Here.
Regent Wolf.
Here.
Regent Salmon.
Here.
Regent Girdwood.
Here.
Regent Hurley.
Here.
Regent Martin.
Here.
Regent McFadden.
Here.
Regent Stevens.
Here.
Regent Thompson.
Here.
And Regent Wells.
Here.
Quorum present.
There being a quorum present, the board business will begin with the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. These minutes have been distributed to all members. Are there any corrections to the regular meeting minutes? If there are no corrections, the minutes are approved. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? There being none, we will proceed with the agenda as presented. Our first order of business is to recognize three important regents for whom this will be their last meeting. During dinner last night, we presented resolutions and tokens of appreciation. I'd like to recognize Regent Simon Billy and Kara McFadden and James Lee. This could not be your last meeting, so we'll recognize you. But I'd like to open the floor to these three to say anything that you would like to say about your experience.
Thank you so much. First, I would say I'm very privileged and humbled and honored by the privilege and trust everyone gave me to serve. It was a good experience. I said things in different perspectives, and it actually increased my critical thinking about certain issues. The journey of this was a great journey and a great experience, to be honest. But there's still more mountains to be climbed. There's still more things to explore. There's still more challenges to encounter. There's still more things ahead of us to do, but hopefully we'll do great things. And I wish the board good and Dr. Paul, the president, know you're going to do great things, and things are already looking bright. And I only know that this board will continue to explore and do great things, and Kentucky will be one of the states that is going to be different like any other states. And actually there's signs for it. And I believe everyone is working really hard to make sure everything works accordingly. And thank you guys for putting me a part of it, to be part of this. It's actually a memory. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kara?
Well, I'd just like to say that I feel so blessed to have finally met all of you in person. You all are so amazing, and I'm so thankful for this experience on the board. I have gained so much knowledge from this experience. It is incredible. And I'd just like to thank you all for having me on the board and making me feel welcome. So thank you.
Thank you. And knowing the student, you both, gives us a lot of hope with the determination that you have, and we wish you well in your next steps. So James Lee, would you like to say anything? No, thank you. Okay. I'm happy to report that the Senate confirmed our newest board member, Barry Martin. As a reminder, the law change now requires that all gubernatorial appointments be confirmed by the Kentucky Senate during the General Assembly. Did you actually have to go to a hearing?
Just for the record, I actually attended 2 meetings before the Senate confirmed me.
Oh. So did you have to go before a hearing?
No, I got the confirmation without being even contacted. So
having had to go through confirmation hearings one time, that was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Glad you didn't have to. All right. So, Dr. Zarapata, I would like to turn the floor over to you to share what you've been working on since our last meeting in March. And congratulations again.
Thank you. Make this mic hot here. It's been a crazy couple of months since you all selected me as president. I've been on the road. I've been talking to a lot of people all over the state, trying to share the good message of KCTCS and what we're doing and what we're ready to do and how we're going to meet the needs of the Commonwealth in getting Kentucky back to work. I'd like to start off with a couple of celebratory videos. The first one is a student video contest that we launched back at the end of February. And Keith, if you could bring that up, that would be fantastic.
My sophomore year of college hit is when it really got to me. I started realizing that things were going to be hard. Once my in-person classes switched to online classes is really when it hit me. And I am a first-generation college student, so I tend to push myself because my parents, they think college is extremely important, but that just wasn't their choice in life.
I have a desire to help others. And the reason that I feel like that I have been able to stay in and take classes during all these last couple of years is my desire and love to help others. And I believe that I can achieve that. And I also feel that I will better my life, not only my own, but hopefully many more.
I will say my brother Rashid Itoka is the one motivated me to stick with college journey to a better life because he's in college too. I mean, he's the CTC student, obviously. Therefore, he leads me to some things, like to be organized, how to navigate Blackboard, to be in touch with my instructors and counselors.
Last year, COVID hit. My dad got super sick, and he died on the 4th of July. And my dad always wanted me to make something better of myself, more than him and my mom. And I'm going to do that. I'm sticking in school to make him proud.
But we have to stay motivated and find the positive in things. And I'm telling you what I did during this COVID time, Gateway has really helped me because they have been very organized during this time. Blackboard has been very helpful and informative. But what I do when I go through something like this is I always find the positive in things.
Continuing my education, obtaining my degree brought an element of hope. And it brought an element of hope during a time where our world was not providing that. So I determined within myself that I was going to finish if I at all could in any way possible. And I didn't entertain the thought of stopping or quitting.
This is my other motivation, my mom and my family. I want to make them proud, and I will. My family, I will make them proud.
For me, something that's kept me going was fear. I have a huge fear of not being able to provide for myself, for my children, for my husband.
Staying positive about things and knowing that no matter what, we were going to get through this and we were going to get through it together. And, I had this guy who keeps interrupting me. I had him and I had my parents and I had this farm. I'm taking this video on my farm right now because it's something I'm so passionate about. I just really tried to be encouraging, inspirational to the people that were in my life, like my parents and my friends that were just struggling to get through class. It was just so hard.
What motivates me
to keep going to school through a pandemic is the fact that in 2 years I will be 22 with or without a degree. I could choose to be 22 without a degree, working as a CNA. You know, no degree, no school, no anything but my CNA job. Or I could choose to be a 22-year-old with a BSN, working as an RN.
And you want to know what motivated me? We'll take a good close look at this picture. My 3 children. You see my boys looking through the glass doors at my daughter. My daughter was at UK and she was dying, needing a lung transplant. All at the same time, I didn't realize when I signed back up to Bridge to be an RN that this was going to happen.
As a first generation college student, I want to be able to make something of myself and prove to my family that I can do it. But I've always been good in school, but I've never really thought that I had it in me to go to college. It's just not something I ever saw myself doing. But I applied and here I am. And I think a lot of the reason I never thought that I could do it is because I've struggled a lot with mental health and depression and anxiety, and especially lately. But I know there are lots of us that have these struggles, especially right now with everything that's going on.
And I'm taking classes at SCC, and I'm a first-generation college student. Something that motivated me to go to college is I don't want to have any regrets later in life. I have many loved ones who did not go to college, and they have regrets for not continuing their education and pursuing their dreams.
Our school even did things such as food boxes, hygiene boxes, supplied deodorant. Like, that's so crazy to me. Like, the school does a lot more than just provide education. There's a lot more additional resources that really help us students, and what skills that we learn that we'll use with us for the rest of our life.
Just being able to provide, financial stability for my kids when all this is over is the end game for me. I never had that. I was foster care and, just not really good, stable upbringing. So for my kids, it's going to be different.
Powerful stuff. A total of 115 videos were submitted from 15 of the colleges. The contest grand prize was a laptop and a $500 gift card. The most votes received a laptop. There was also a random drawing from all entries for 2 $50 gift cards and 2 AirPods. All entrants received a Never Underestimate You t-shirt. Before I go on to the next thing, I did want to recognize, I forgot to do this, David Horstman is here. He is the Associate Commissioner of KDE, and we're happy to see him here at our board meeting. Thank you, sir. This next video, when I go out to meet legislators, usually 2 or 3 days ahead, I send an email just with all my contact information and a link to this video that gives an overview of the system. So Keith, if you could bring that up, please.
The role of community colleges has always been to provide all Americans, especially the economically and socially disadvantaged, opportunities to improve their lives through education. Since its creation in 1998, the Kentucky Community and Technical College System has been a leader in workforce education and an economic driver in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. With 16 colleges and over 70 campuses, an amazing 90% of Kentuckians live within 30 minutes of a KCTCS college, making KCTCS the most convenient higher education option in the state. And the fact that KCTCS offers the lowest tuition of any institution of higher learning in Kentucky makes it the most affordable option as well, providing the opportunity for a better life to those with financial barriers, keeping them from achieving their full potential. By taking just 2 years at a KCTCS college, students can save as much as $32,000. In addition to saving money, the over 100,000 students enrolled in KCTCS colleges are seeing success in the classroom as well. Since 1998, KCTCS has awarded over 500,000 credentials. Per capita, this makes KCTCS the #2 institution in the entire country for credentials awarded. As the largest provider of workforce training, dual credit classes, and online education in the state, KCTCS is truly creating better lives for a better Kentucky. This is further evidenced by the fact that most KCTCS graduates stay and work in Kentucky.
Jefferson opened doors to a career and a better life for me and my family. I can't say enough about it. The instructors there really pushed all of the students and making sure we understood and helped us when we didn't understand it.
MCTC provided me with a better life because it made me a better person, it made me a better employee, it made me a better student, and it also allowed me to graduate debt-free, and that is just something that I can't say without smiling. So thank you, MCTC.
SkyCTC has helped me attain a better life by being able to give back to those I love. They definitely set you up for success. I'm 36 years old. The only regret that I have is that I didn't do this when I was fresh out of school at 18 years old.
Making its students' lives better by increasing individual earning potential is not the only benefit. KCTCS also helps local businesses to thrive by providing highly skilled and trained employees. This also increases consumer spending, furthering KCTCS's status as an economic engine. Kentucky community and technical colleges are not just places to learn and get a degree. They are places for all Kentuckians to become the people they always knew they could be. KCTCS, creating better lives for a better Kentucky.
Senator Max Wise said that was one of the most powerful videos he's ever seen of a higher education institution. This is where I've got my work cut out for me. I think KCTCS is the best kept secret in the state. I've got lots and lots and lots of people to meet with still to get our word out there and to make sure, each and every one of them has my cell phone and can text me and call me and just be open with everything.
Can I ask you a question there? I think videos like that are just so powerful. When I've been out in the community, I used another one 2 years ago, and the video spoke for itself. Is this something that we could use, like if we're asked to speak to Rotary clubs or women's
Absolutely,
clubs?
it's on YouTube.
It's
so
on.
We can share the link.
I
Yeah.
think that's a good thing when you're talking about or do a Wesley night at your church or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great.
Powerful.
Yeah, we can share that. Hannah can send that out to the board distribution list. So I'm not going to read you the rest of this report, but I do want, towards the end here, we've got the state legislative update. Number one thing on everybody's mind is how much money higher education has right now. And so what I've really focused on is how much of those funds are going to students and how much of those funds are being strategically invested once it's applied towards lost revenue. And it's one-time money. So we're going to be in this boat one time. And so we've got to do our work to get enrollment and tuition revenue back up. I do want to thank Regent Girdler. We had a fantastic meeting down in Somerset. Met with Speaker Pro Tem David Meade, Senator Rick Girdler, and Representative Shane Baker. We had a great conversation. And if any of you all have legislators in your neck of the woods, let me know. I'd be happy to come out and talk with them. Chair Henson, that concludes my president's report.
Thank you. You were off to a very busy start, and I think meeting with people like that is it's mano a mano, isn't it?
That's right.
We have to do that. Okay, now we're going to turn to the consent agenda. Are there any changes to the consent agenda? Okay, if there are no changes, I declare the agenda approved by unanimous consent. I'd like to ask Vice Chair Lisa Damaris to make the executive committee's report.
Thank you, Chair Henson. Yesterday, the executive committee met and began their meeting at 11:10 a.m. There was a full quorum present, and so we were able to conduct business. The first item we discussed were the meeting dates. Since there were no modifications to the consent agenda just a few moments ago, those meeting dates will stand. And just a reminder, if you look in your packet, you'll see them for March, June, September, and December of 2022. There is one item for action for this board that came out of the executive committee, and that item is the renewal of the mission statement for Jefferson Community and Technical College. KCTCS Board of Regents last reviewed and approved the Jefferson Community and Technical College Message Statement on June 18th of 2018. Every 3 years, we are required by board policy to have each of the colleges have their mission statements reviewed. On January 27th of 2021, the JCTC Vice President for Advancement, Research, and Planning presented the current mission and values statement to the President's leadership team. There were no, one minor revision was suggested. In the months of February, March, and April of this year, the revised mission and value statement was shared with College Staff Council, college faculty, a representative group of staff, and the college's board of directors. All unanimously approved the slightly modified mission statement. Coming out of executive committee, there was a recommendation to approve the statement as presented in your materials. And so at this time, I'd like to make a motion that the KCTCS Board of Regents approve the revision of the mission statement for Jefferson Community and Technical College as presented in your agenda materials.
Okay, are there any questions or further discussion? I'd like to call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I say the motion passes. I would like to ask James Lee Stevens, Chair of the Efficiency, Effectiveness, and Accountability Committee, to make that committee's report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The committee met as a whole yesterday and the first item discussed was the strategic plan. Our plan is, this year's plan ends June the 30th, 2022. And so we're developing a new plan for effective of July 2022. And input, Dr. Williams gave a lot of information. One of the things was that the Regents asked to see what each college's strategic plan was, and then the system strategic plan, how they combine and work together is what I'm saying is. Regents will also be involved in this and have input as this process is developed. It is an ongoing process. Dr. Williams hopes to provide some additional information to us so that we can have input. So there was no action taken. It was just mainly an information cycle, and that the strategic plan was for 2022 to 2026 is what I'm saying. So that's the one we're working on right now. And she did give a list of timelines and activities that run from January of 2021 all the way through, and the activities that she is working on. The next item was the efficiency program, and we had all but 2 regents provided feedback and information. And I did give a summary of those, and those are online and I will just briefly highlight some of the information that was provided by each board member. First of all, that it was unanimous that the board was very pleased with the communication and information provided by Dr. Sarpada to all of the board members. The second thing was that even though that we may have differences of opinion, this board works very closely together, trying to come together to set the goals and objectives of this system, and so we can meet the needs of our students. There was some concern about fundraising, and basically we were concerned about, with state funds continuing to dwindle, that how are we going to address that? And so Vice President Moeller will be hopefully presenting something at the next meeting or in the near future in regard to that. The other items that we discussed was, we felt like that there was needed to be a retreat probably in the fall, so that the possibility that we may have 7 new board members. We'll have at the end of the September meetings is that 3 of the present members are not eligible to run. 1 is, and then we'll have 2 new students, and then there will be a replacement for Miss Henson. So basically it was the feeling of the Regents that we needed to have some type of retreat and get I use the term plan, our action plan together. And with that, Madam Chairman, that's my report.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. I would like to ask Committee Chair Damon Allen to make the Finance, Technology, and Human Resource Committee report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. The Finance, Technology, and Human Resources Committee, which going forward I'll refer to as the Finance Committee, having a quorum and being duly convened, held its second meeting of the week yesterday at approximately 1:20 p.m. Of course, the meeting began with a roll call approval of the minutes from March 18th and our June 7th meeting, and this was followed by the ratification of personnel actions which are contained in your consent agenda. Following that action, the committee approved a recommendation that the board approve a tuition freeze for the fiscal year 2021 through 2022. So with regards to this recommendation, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I request a motion to approve the recommendation as presented in your materials to freeze the tuition rates for all KCTCS students for the 2021 to 2022 academic year.
Thank you. Are there any questions or further discussion? I think this sends an important message. Was there a question?
I thought I said.
Okay. Okay, there being none, I'd like to call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
This needs to be a roll call vote.
Oh,
since-
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need the motion?
And we need a motion.
He moved it.
Actually, he recommended a motion.
Okay.
So moved then.
Okay. So if there's no discussion, we will move forward with the roll call vote. Chair Henson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Damaris?
Yes.
Secretary Fletcher?
Yes.
Regent Allen?
Yes.
Regent Finan?
Yes.
Regent Foltz? Yes. Regent Simon?
Yes.
Regent Girdler?
Yes, and I would like to explain my yes vote, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Madam Chair, I just want to commend the staff, Dr. Zarapata. I think this sends a very strong message and is a wonderful thing for KCTCS to do. It continues that effort of having the lowest tuition, as the video said, the most affordable education in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And I just think this is a very positive step and a wonderful thing to be done. And I commend, again, Dr. Zarapata, you and your leadership team, as well as this board for supporting this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move forward with the rest of the roll call vote. Regent Herdink?
Yes.
Regent Martin?
Yes.
Regent McFadden?
Yes.
Regent Stevens?
Yes.
Regent Thompson?
Yes.
And Regent Wells?
Yes.
The vote is unanimous and carries.
Perfect, thank you. So the next 2 items, I think also will require a roll call vote, and I will be requesting a motion on both of them. So the next action item by the committee was approval of the salary ranges for 2021 through 2022. There was some discussion around the issue of continued salary compression, which the staff will review in the near term. Therefore, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I request a motion to approve the salary ranges for 2021 through 2022 as presented in the Finance Committee materials.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or further questions?
I would like to have some discussion on the salary schedules, please. My concern with the salary schedule and why I will not be voting to approve is that the minimum on the pay bands have not been adjusted, whereas the midpoint and the maximum have. We did our salary study that showed that the compression with the pay bands is at the minimum. That's where we are. Where when you get promotions in faculty ranks and you get to professor, your automatic promotion is to the minimum of the pay band. And that's where we sit without a cost of living raise. So in my opinion, in dealing with pay bands, when we hire new people, we always offer the minimum. You know, we have ranges within the pay bands that we can offer more. So with all due respect to people that put together the proposal, I don't understand necessarily how raising the midpoint and the maximum is going to help compression at all when, according to the scatter plots which we were sent, the problem with compression is around the minimum. So I'm sorry, I can't support the proposal of raising midpoint and maximum without raising where all the employees are at, which is near minimum. So that is my concern, and also explaining why I can't vote for the salary schedule as presented. I think if we raise market and maximum 10%, we should raise minimum 10%. I think it sends a bad message to people that aren't on the minimum, that you can stay where you are. And I'm uncomfortable with that. So thank you.
Damon, you have any comments?
Well, I know it was expressed yesterday also by Regent Wells. So, Mr. Fall, I don't have any problem with that. I don't know if that requires another study or.
The reason why the minimums were not moved is that we believe the schedule allows for the adjustment. As I think Regent folks mentioned, colleges have the ability to hire above it. They don't have to hire below at the minimum. And to raise the minimum would be a recurring cost, not just one-time money, but forever money. And to do so will place some colleges in significant financial terms at this point. Particularly, you heard Dr. Lemon from Hazard mention yesterday that her enrollment was down 20%. Others are in that same boat. She did not receive any additional state appropriation, although we got $3.8 million for state appropriation increases for performance funding. Jefferson Community College, Bluegrass Community College, you heard from them, they got roughly the large part of it, $700,000-$800,000 apiece, because they're performance funding side. So performance funding model is a great model, but at the same time, it also has nuances that favor urban, larger institutions. So it would be a difficult decision for some of the other colleges, particularly small rural colleges. And in order to do that, given the situation, they might make it for 21, 22 on a non-recurring basis. Somewhere along the line, somebody's going to have to go home.
Wendell, is it fair to say that by raising the market and the maximum, we're not impacting existing employees, but if we raise the minimum, we would have to bring everybody up,
That's
correct?
That's correct. So that's the rationale.
I really have tried very hard. I'm not a finance person, I'm a healthcare person, but I've tried really hard to get my head around this conversation, and I so appreciate Dr. Foltz's input on this and talking with her. I feel like I do have a little bit of a better understanding, at least from the faculty and the staff side of this conversation. I also understand where Wendell's coming from, and Dr. Zarapata and Damon as well, in trying to help me figure this minimum, median, and maximum thing out. I understand that raising the target on the top end gives you a broader range, but my frustration with the conversation after talking with Dr. Foltz and the other faculty and staff folks is that if most of our people are compressed at the bottom, if we move that median up, and maybe it's not 10%, maybe it's 10% on the top and 3 or 4% on the bottom. Or maybe what we really need to be talking about is getting rid of the compression by having policies and procedures in place that would actually reward good merit amongst those faculty and staff who are really excelling and have been loyal to the system for years, so that they're not compressed at the bottom and someone brand new comes in and in a year is hopping over where they are after 15 years of dedicated service. I think there's got to be a middle ground here, and I don't know that we've found it yet. And I would just want to say that I understand the finance and the one-time money idea as well as the recurring costs, but we have really got to figure out a way to get our folks who have been so good and so loyal for so long off the bottom of these pay bands. It's disheartening to me to see. I can't imagine working in the system where you've been there for years and years and years, and despite good performance, you can't move out of the bottom. To me, that is, the morale has to be low around this topic out there. And I know everyone is doing more with less, and I so appreciate that. But I feel like there's got to be a better way. Extending the top end of the band doesn't seem to be it. It doesn't affect very many people. We've got to find a better way to move that bottom of the band closer to the middle. And I know that that takes money, and I know that that takes creativity and some effort, and maybe it needs to take some outside funding. We seem to be very dependent on the state legislature for funding, and that just is not happening. So I don't know what the answer is. Damon, I really appreciate your conversation getting on the bus last night about how that band works, or that extending the band works. But if we're never moving anybody up that extra 10%, what's the point? It just looks to me like we say we're doing something, but we're really not moving the people it matters to.
So I think the next action item will address part of that, because one of the things you hit on was the value of recurring increases for staff, because that's partly what you see. If someone hasn't had a promotion or a raise, and I'll say a raise in 3 or 4 years, and someone new comes in, that's what happens, is you get that compression. So I think we will talk about that. So maybe what we do here for this meeting is, if people are comfortable, we can approve the increase in the market max and then have the team give us some quantifiable figures around the impact of moving the minimum on the various colleges and the costs associated with that. So we all have more information to make a better decision.
I think one of the homework items from yesterday was to do an analysis on people at the bottom of the band and bring it back to the board.
Okay.
At the next meeting.
See, I didn't take notes on that part.
That's what I got out of yesterday's conversation, that we were going to look at the correlation between I'll not say tenure, I'm not supposed to say that in here, but seniority versus pay. And I think that is definitely something we need to look at.
Tenure is a good word. You can use tenure here.
I'm just trying to stay away from.
But I do want to say that I think absent that and looking at the compression at the bottom, I'm still uncomfortable approving this because I think it's premature. I think this would need to be part of that package. And I think approving this for the market and the maximum would be terribly premature, and just like to see it as a package with the entire pay band, so that we are approving one whole thing at once and not trying to piecemeal the pay bands. That would be my suggestion.
I have one more comment if possible. So if we are going to consider tabling this, or I don't know what's going to happen, but if we do, can another thing that we look at be, because what I'm hearing over and over is that we just hire at the minimum. We always hire at the minimum. We bring people in at the minimum or at the bottom of the band. I would like an analysis on how true is that? Are we always hiring? We're never going to be able to recruit and retain the best talent, which is what we want to do, right? And I think being good stewards of our resources is always being able to recruit and retain the best talent for our system, for our students. And so if we could really get a number of how many new hires in the last 2-3 years have really been brought in at that minimum, I don't need names, but I would love to know that number.
I would also like to, I appreciate your request for that information. I think that would really be helpful in this discussion. And the other thing I think would be helpful is how many people that have been at the bottom in the compressed area, what has been their length of time at KCTCS? Not just that they're there, but how long have they stayed near the bottom of the pay bands? Because I know the individual college presidents can adjust someone within the pay band at their discretion, or at least that's my understanding. That is completely
Local college has complete control over
Yes.
what they do with their
So
employees.
Chair
But
Hansen,
that-
I think you had a comment also or question.
Yeah, that's my question to Wendell. So there is discretion, Wendell, and how people are brought in. And so we can't really make unilateral decision statements that people are always brought in at the minimum, because like some of the high need, like in nursing or some of the other things, they're brought in at higher levels, right? So it's erroneous to say everybody.
Wendell, you might as well stand at the podium
Yeah.
for this in the next
It's-
item.
it's hard to hear you. Yeah.
And one of the things that President Zarapata sent you all was part of the workshop that was done in March of 2019, I believe.
Yeah, with the scatter plots.
Pandemic came. There's 3 slides in that presentation that talk about the cost and the number of people by category. And if you'll look by the years, 0 to 199, 2 to 5, and so on and so forth. I have it up on my computer over there now. And I think the ranges run from $2.5 million to deal with things maybe given certain percentages up to $15 million. And that's a year ago now. So to come back to your point, every college has the flexibility, and it will depend largely in that area. Some colleges are in areas such as Dr. Handy mentioned in Louisville, or Dr. Capo here in Lexington area. It's being much more competitive than it might be in somewhere like Southeast, whereas in Southeast Kentucky with regard to the Cumberland, Middlesboro area, or even Maysville or Prestonsburg, where it happens to be. It depends upon the discipline of the faculty member or the staff member, depending on the type of job. So it is going to vary. And the colleges have that ability to go up to the midpoint with their hire. But in doing so, because they may have hired over time at the lower end, or there hasn't been recurring salary increases, and I agree with you in that wholeheartedly, we need to address that. There hasn't been the movement. So when they bring somebody in, compared to today's market, they may bring them in, or even there have been probably times where they had to go back and make adjustments for everybody else in that same classification at the college in order to get everybody up to that, because you don't want people leapfrogging. That's been an issue. But we're committed to looking at that, adjusting the lower end of the band. If we do that, it just makes everything at this point in time, we'd have to go back and do an analysis. It would require recurring dollars. The other gives the colleges greater discretion. Like I say, it moves that midpoint, so you could hire at that midpoint. That's up to the college level, because like I say, the cost in Madisonville is different from what it is in Prestonsburg, different from what it is in Covington versus others. So,
Wendell, I will say, from a system office perspective, every hire comes across my desk. I have not allowed them to hire anyone since October at the minimum.
If I could add a comment here, and I appreciate everyone's input, particularly that of Dr. Foltz, because I think she's the person on the ground who studied this probably the most. I also appreciate additional analysis of the scatter plot or the detail compression. It's, as you all know, I'm very detail analysis oriented, so I love to see the data and I love to understand the problem. But it occurs to me the problem is the problem. And the solution to the problem is funding. We're not going to solve this problem unless we have more money. And I think we need to start getting creative about how we get money. We're not going to see a lot more in terms of state appropriations. We've heard that I've been on this board for 5 years. I've heard it every single meeting I've come to in the last 5 years. I think we're starting to beat the drum around funding. I think we have excessive talent in Ben Moeller to bring in some funding, and I think we need to get creative. There are things that other agencies do, whether they're public or private, like create talent retention funds. You know, maybe we start looking at some of our development money that comes in and start targeting that money toward retaining our talented faculty and staff. This way, the presidents will have a pool of money that they can choose from that is dedicated to the faculty and staff, as opposed to, I imagine a president sitting there going, do I have enough money to pay the electric bill? or can I give more money to my faculty and staff? Because that's what they're dealing with. They're dealing with operating dollars, and they're trying to figure out how to allocate those. So I guess I would encourage the group to think a little bit more broadly about how we bring in alternative funds and how we use those alternative funds. And I imagine there are people who are willing to give to KCTCS to retain talented faculty and staff.
I would like to ask Wendell, if this passes the way it is, what I hear you saying, people can still, and what I heard Paul say, was you can bring people in at a higher salary. What about the people who have been boots on the ground and have not been bumped up? How would they get more money? Is there a pool where they can be rewarded?
This board approves across the board. The colleges have some discretion to address particular areas. The presidents do within a particular department, things of that nature. But as far as across the board increases, it is charged with this board. This board does that. So we haven't allowed the colleges, so to speak, if you would, to Jefferson gives a raise and Southeast doesn't. Maysville gives a raise, but Big Sandy doesn't. This board decides what that will be across KCTCS.
So right now, if we were to increase the minimum, people would be laid off.
That is potential. I can't say that non-recurring, I'm sure they can cover it.
Right.
On a recurring basis, that's another issue unless enrollment comes back and there's additional recurring funding to help support it. That is a likelihood in some cases. Yes, ma'am.
I just speak because a number of the colleges, private colleges, like whole departments have been wiped out because of funding. They say we're not going to have this major, and state schools too. So, so I think that just how academia works, that's happening. So I will be supporting this just because of the range and knowing that the presidents have, the flexibility. So.
Can I make one more comment, and then I promise I'll get off my soapbox on this topic. When we're talking about elevating the market cost so that we could hire in, we are talking about salary money. And in the same token, we're saying we can't afford to raise the people that are at the minimum, but we want to be able to allow you to spend that same kind of money to hire people more competitively at market. So to me, if we don't have the money to address compression, I don't know why we want to be able to spend elevated salary money to bring in new hires. I think I'm sorry, I just have a real problem with the message that sends to the people that have worked in this system for the number of years some of us have and are at the minimum and will never see market before we retire. You have a whole bunch of professors sitting there near the minimum that will never see market before they retire out of the system. And I think that's not a good message to send. So that's the end of my soapbox.
Karen, then Chris.
Chair Allen, one of the things we did talk about yesterday, realizing that this is a very complicated topic and it has been interrupted given COVID, because when we started with the study in 2019, yeah. I think we were all invested. We saw the numbers. We had the data rolling. We had an interruption here. I think, this past meeting was one of the first times we really dug back in. And I know the conversation at the Finance Committee level was that we would talk again about this at next board meeting and, continue to keep it on the agenda so that we can understand the numbers better and make a connected decision related to that. So I wanted just to relay that to the group because I do think that's an important conversation. There's recognition amongst the Finance Committee and I think this board that this is an issue that deserves more time and data connected to it. So with that, I think the conversation that we're going to go into after this in terms of the $2,000 or 2% is a temporary situation, but it allows us time to talk more about the recurring numbers. And I do agree, Gail, with what you said. I mean, this is not just academia issue. This is widespread throughout the business community. If you don't make the numbers, if you don't sell the product, if you don't provide the service, in our case, if enrollment is down and the dollars are not there to fund your faculty, your staff, your personnel, then there are unintended consequences. And I would hate for this board to kick this down the road for 2 years, and then we have a number of colleges in a situation where they do have to lay off people or make some really tough decisions. And so I think we've got to really have the numbers and think through what we're doing here in terms of the financial commitment.
Chris?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to commend Regent Allen and the committee for the work that has been done on this. Mr. Folwell, in particular, thank you. Regent Fletcher basically took the words out of my mouth. I could not say it any better than what she has said. It is a complicated issue. I see both sides of this. I had two sides yesterday, Regent Fultz and Regent Thompson on both sides, left ear and right ear, letting me know as well, and that was very informative, and I appreciate them telling me this. I come back to, in the business world, I've always said that your best salesperson is going to be an existing customer, a happy customer. And I think in the recruitment of instructors, professors, et cetera, the same thing will hold true, that an existing instructor or professor will be your best salesperson out in that marketplace to recruit and hire new instructors and new professors. So I think ensuring their satisfaction, the pride in their work, again, being a salesperson for this institution out there is imperative. My question, Madam Chair, and I don't know who this is directed towards, is there anyone who can give us a little bit more historical perspective on this? I know this did not come about overnight, and has the can been kicked down the road before for too long possibly, or when was the last time that this has been adjusted, and what was the reasoning behind that?
Wendell?
In 2017-18 was the last time it was adjusted. We did some of you were new on the board at that time. We met in Ashland. We had Hannah Associates come. We did a comprehensive study for a better part of a year, 18 months, looking at all bands, all areas, and comparing those to private industry as well as other institutions across the state, as well as others across the country of similar size and type of job. So there's where the last study was done that was brought to you all in, I guess, 19, culminating in that, looking at those. The last time we did probably, and it's been at least 10 to maybe 12 years ago, I don't have it before me, and Jackie Cecil had a family matter he had to leave for today, emergency, otherwise he would be here this morning to be able to help me with that. But it's been 10 to 12 years since we last did phase one. At that time, when we did the study on some things, we did phase one, moving the bands, readjusting them, and making changes to the minimums. When we did that, that caused this compression, and we haven't been able to give consistent recurring adjustments that has affected that and compressed. So Regent Fuchs is right. We've hired a lot of times, good times or bad, hired closer to the minimum or at the minimum versus hiring towards the midpoint. With the job market today where it's at, the colleges, as you heard yesterday, are looking to try to do something about that, certainly to hire at more closer to that midpoint. And also some colleges have made some adjustments within various departments. I know Dr. Handy, I think, mentioned yesterday or related to within his nursing department. He had to go through and make several adjustments because he was hiring outside closer to the midpoint or at midpoint. Therefore, he had to go back and make other adjustments within that department. Now, that's not done across the whole college, because then that goes back to Regent Fultz' point about addressing everything that requires not just dollars for that department, but dollars for that whole college. And to doing that to whole college, the authority rests with this board, not with the individual college to be able to do that. Because otherwise, why even have a salary scale? Everybody do what they want to, and it would be all over the place.
Can I say something? I think we need to leave here today with the kind of a mandate that from this point on, we need to look at and not have somebody come in at a midpoint when somebody's been here for 10 years and they're at the minimum. I think we need to send a message across the board, because, I mean, that is very demoralizing to the staff.
And one of the questions, though, that we heard from Dr. Acapo, or one of the issues in talking with him and Dr. Handy, is when you have areas that's hard to find faculty in, and we'll say nursing, if somebody had 7 openings, it might have been Ty, I can't remember. And if the salaries are the minimum, then they're not going to come, because they can make more working in a hospital. And so,
but you're going to lose the people you've got.
Well, that's a separate issue, because to go forward, I mean, that you're right.
Right.
And this is really a separate issue. And that's something that's been historic. We have that every place. But to attract the talent that you need, and somebody else had an HVAC person that would only come in at $50,000, and he was only offered 47, so they didn't come. You know, so you've got those issues. So if you've got talent and you need to hire them in, do you have discretionary dollars that you can use, the president can use? Sounds like there's some. But Dr. Acapo said he's lost, what, 2 or 3 people to UK, to their computer science, computer engineering?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'll take Jefferson, for example. They were having trouble bringing in allied health. They adjusted all of their allied health people back in December. And so there's no one sitting in the minimum. I think we're really starting to talk about anecdotal things right now. And I think at the next board meeting, perhaps maybe we bring the evidence to show. I don't think this is a common practice. I really don't. I don't think we're leapfrogging people.
And the data will drive that decision, which is why I'm asking for the data.
And I guess knowing in academia, you know, we've had salary studies. The national Coupa ratio, for example, is what we use. And a lot of Bellarmine's always thousands of dollars below that, and you all are thousands of dollars below that. And that's a shame, but that's tuition-driven colleges, and that's just how it is. And it's, you choose to stay there or you choose to leave. It's really hard. My salary was way below, your salary's way below, but we choose to stay. You know, and as a small business owner, Barry owns a business, you know, I mean, if you don't have cash flow, you can't pay people or you lay people off.
But in the same token, like, we don't want to lose our good people by hiring one good person. We may lose 2 or 3 if we bring somebody else in at a higher rate. So I think we need to.
I hate to interrupt and cut off the discussion, but since I'm the one who said I don't like the committee reports going 30 minutes.
Okay.
All
right.
Why don't we table this and give Wendell and his team time? Go ahead, ma'am.
Not table it, because then you have to vote to untable it. What I would do is to withdraw the motion and create a new motion that directs Wendell and his staff to continue the data and to bring back whatever it is that you direct him to bring.
Okay. And it sounds like hearing all the various perspectives that that's more the appetite of the board. Is that correct? Just some head nods.
I would support that.
Okay.
So let me ask you, are we jeopardizing our funding by putting it off?
What are the consequences?
What are the consequences?
Are there any negative consequences to not going
Well,
forward?
there's just less flexibility with new hires. That's the only consequence.
But I mean, to that, in all due respect, that's where we were before. You know, we were there before in that same situation without voting on this, and I would support doing the new motion so that we can get some more information. And I don't know which one said it, but to have a whole package to vote on and a whole thing instead of trying to piecemeal it and then trying to recover if we wanted to do something different.
And I would just say, though, that taking away the flexibility to hire people in high demand areas is unfortunate, because, you know, when you go to hire people and have to have certain credentials, certifications, and especially in the technical fields, you know, you're not gonna get the person.
And I'm not saying take that away. I'm saying that we should try to do both in some capacity.
And that's very common. When we bring somebody in, we typically have to adjust, especially with lower bands, separate. You heard Ty say it yesterday, you know, he brought somebody in, they
That's
had,
one of the things I didn't mention, say, if someone's brought in at the midpoint, there is always an equity review of those other persons and whatever that band, whether it's faculty or staff, looking at their years of experience, their credentials, all of those things. And there may well be, depending on what that criteria and what that individual is, that others in that group have to be adjusted upwards to that as well. So it's not done where people are leapfrogging in a sense. It is done in comparison. And Jackie's shop does that here at the system office, looking and helps each and every college do that, looking at equity allocation. We've had to do that here at the system office. Other colleges have done it as well. As much as everybody mentioned, Jefferson did that with regard to allied health in December. So there is that review to address it. This schedule was to give that greater flexibility, because even these midpoints that we have today may not be as competitive as they were before COVID, because of the labor supply shortage and the hospitals do, your business needs, particularly nursing, allied health, advanced manufacturing. We heard yesterday from Big Legal. There are a number of disciplines that are very high demand, and that's where also in that same schedule we have noted there that there would still be discretion to work with Jackie's office here at the system office to make adjustments in that sense. This gives greater flexibility. It's your all's decision. I'm just telling you from the side where what we're trying to do.
Can I ask then for the motion as you're going to make, I believe, a new motion, that we not limit the analysis to the study of the problem? I think asking Wendell to give us the data makes a lot of sense. But again, I want to reiterate, the problem is the problem. Right. The work is in the solution. So I would ask that the motion be that, you know, Vice President Falwell perhaps even work with Vice President Mueller to see what alternative funding sources can we possibly come up with that would do talent retention. What I hear you saying, Dr. Foltz, is it's a talent retention issue. It's an equity issue. It's a fear that the people who are already here not making as much money are going to leave, and we're going to lose all of that intellect, institutional knowledge, and talent. So I guess I just don't want to limit us to a further study of the problem. We do need to have more information.
Right.
But we need to know.
How we're going to pay for it.
Yeah, how are we going to pay for it? At the end of the day, if I know everything costs me this much, I still have the same revenue source.
Right.
I don't have an answer to the problem. So that's what I would ask for.
I would also ask, if I could, that they work with Mr. Cecil as well and think about the creativity in the hiring policies and in the retention policies, so that, and I would love to see that extra spreadsheet in that new data showing those adjustments that have been made when new talent comes in. That would be awesome to see where that's happening and how often that's happening. But to also honor the work done, I guess is the way to say it, and to think about creatively, so you're not adjusting every single person at the bottom or in the band, but that you find a way based on their, whether it's a seniority thing or their merit, that you can adjust a few people, not everyone all at once where it's millions and millions and millions of dollars, but a few people here and there along the way. And maybe not every year, but have some mechanism in place where there's some hope for those folks at the bottom end of the band that, hey, I've been here 15 years, they're going to honor the work done and give me this little bump, you know, in my review or whatever.
So I think that'll be part of this next item we're going to talk about. So
okay,
I think
perfect. Sorry if I'm getting ahead.
So to be clear, I want to withdraw my motion and make a motion that Dr. Zarapata and his team, whoever he deems appropriate, engage in an analysis of the salary band ranges, as well as the means of funding any changes, basically the effect of that, the financial impact of that, and how we would pay for it.
I'll second
Is that broad enough for?
That's broad.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, you know.
Okay.
Recognize that.
Who made the original motion though? Because Regent Allen, you recommended the motion, and someone else made it.
And then he clarified it. So Damon's motion is the one.
So I'll make the motion. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll second.
Thank you. So then you need a
All
roll
right.
call vote.
So we're going to have a roll call vote on this motion, And essentially it is to come back with more information, correct?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Henson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Damaris.
Yes.
Secretary Fletcher.
Yes.
Regent Allen.
Yes.
Regent Finan.
Yes.
Regent Foltz.
Yes.
Regent Simon.
Yes.
Regent Girdler.
Yes.
Regent Herding.
No. Can I comment on why?
Yes, sir.
It seems like we're kicking the can down the road again with this one. This gives immediate assistance and flexibility to the presidents of the colleges, and now we're going to say we're going to look at it later. This could be a phase 1, and we could look at the phase 2. But so I'm going to vote no, that we're just kicking the can down the road.
Thank you. Regent Martin.
Yes.
Regent McFadden.
Yes.
Regent Stevens.
Yes.
Regent Thompson.
Yes.
Regent Wells.
Yes.
All right, you have 10.5 votes in favor and 0.5 as nay. The motion carries.
All right, thank you. Before I move to this next action item, so this is great conversation. I would advise everybody, come to the Finance Committee, even if you're not on the committee, you're a regent, and that's probably where we really need to dig into this detail, rather than do it here in the main meeting where we have to present so many other items. So I would encourage that because it is good discussion, and I think it is very valuable. So the third action item of the committee was a review of staff's recommendation for a one-time payment to staff of $2,000 or 2% of their salary, whichever is greater. During the presentation, there was some discussion around the merits of a flat $2,000 payment versus the aforementioned proposal. The committee also heard from 4 college presidents who expressed their concerns around attracting and retaining talented staff and the adverse impact of stagnant salaries over the last few fiscal years. Ultimately, the committee approved an amended motion from what was in your board materials. So that motion reads as follows: that the Board of Regents approve a one-time payment of $2,000 or 2% of salary, whichever amount is greater in 2021-2022, for each regular full-time employee who earns at least the fully met job requirements rating in their 2020-2021 performance evaluation, and that the president shall have authority to determine how and when the one-time payment is implemented, and this is the amended part. In March 2022, a feasibility study shall be conducted and presented to determine whether a recurring salary increase starting in 2022 through 2023 for all employees can be provided. So before I call for a motion, I guess, is there discussion around this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak once again, like I did yesterday. I am opposed to the 2% in addition to the $2,000. Basically is what that entails is the rich get richer and the poor get, well, leave it at that. But everybody gets the $2,000 is what I'm saying, no matter where you're a college president, a secretary, a professor, anything. And I heard college presidents say yesterday that there were 2 things that they really wanted to see. They were going to work on enrollment, but they were going to look at salaries. And I think that the board needs to, besides what we do with the $2,000 or so, we need to send some pretty swift guidelines that we are going to have reoccurring salary expenses next year. You need to start working on them right now. And, you know, as I said, that I had several presidents after the meeting come up and thank me for and the Regent for their support. But they're going to have to make, as Wendell says, they're going to have to make some of those decisions. And if they know up front that this Board of Regents is looking at a 2% or 3% raise for all employees next year, they better start working on it right now for next year. So with that is, the only problem I have is with the 2% is basically I'd prefer that everybody gets the $2,000 raise. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your patience yesterday and today.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, so hearing none.
I would, sorry. Oh. I would say that I do agree with Regent Stevens. I feel like with the numbers I heard from listening in with the Finance Committee is that it's just a handful of people who would impact, and it would be people in the salary range greater than $100,000 that would get more than $2,000. Is that accurate?
Right.
Okay, so if you make more than $100,000, you get a bigger bonus than if you make less than $100,000. And for most of our colleges, that's a couple of people. And I think that's, again, kind of the wrong message. If this were a recurring raise, I'm all about percentages for recurring. But this isn't recurring, this is a bonus. And I think it sends a better message also that if we're giving a bonus is across the board. And a bonus is not, if you make $100,000, you get a bigger bonus. If you make less than $100,000, everybody gets the same bonus. I think that's kind of a weird message to send myself. And if it were recurring, again, I would definitely support a percentage. I would love to see a recurring percentage. But as it's a bonus, I think I'm much more comfortable with a flat bonus for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, it's 2,000 or 2%, whichever is greater. So yes, once you hit a salary of $100,000, your bonus can go up. I would also argue that the people making over $100,000 might be offended by a $2,000 bonus. These are top executives, and they are always being recruited, competed for, et cetera. Going back to September 29th, my conversation then around an allowance, there's no right answer. There's no easy answer. We can sit here and dice this thing all day long. I think this is reasonable, but I think to say that the executives get the same bonus as other staff puts you at a disadvantage on the other end of the spectrum. So there's trade-offs on each one. So
Could I say something? Can you hear me? This is a very tough call, and I see both sides. And I would have to say that from the last vote that we just had, to say that we want more information so that we can be more equitable and get more information for our faculty and staff, because we want to retain the people that we have. I feel the same way about that we need to retain the people that we have in those higher levels, because I think that they, all, like the faculty and staff, feel that they are important in everything that they do, and I agree that is true. So I think that we need to be consistent. Are we going to say for faculty and staff that we want to make sure that we are equitable and try to get everything, the minimum raised and the information that we need, but not the same for the higher level executives? So I am in support of the 2% and the 2,000 for that reason.
Any other questions, comments?
I would just say in business, the percentage is what I've observed. I know
the percentage is the
most
norm.
engineers and tech people, you do a percentage.
Right,
so,
that's right. That's typically the norm. And the real solution to all this is a recurring bonus, typically as a percent based on performance. So to be clear, it doesn't mean everybody gets a merit increase each year. If you are underperforming, however you guys categorize that, they don't get one. If you're a 5 out of 5, you get a bigger one. That's a reality. So when we get to that discussion, that's a different topic. So, all right, so the motion.
Regent Allen, may I make a comment? A couple of years ago, and I believe I was the regent who made this suggestion to do a one-time payment of $2,000. At that time, we were deep in the conversations of pension crisis, possible effects to our budget, dramatic effects to our budget, and enrollment that wasn't necessarily skyrocketing, pretty much level, or certainly not dipping as bad as it did last year with the pandemic. And the reason why I made the suggestion was because I was a member of the staff at the City of Covington, and we were having the same exact discussions. And we were worried about retaining people and keeping good talent. And we had the ability from a budgetary standpoint to do a one-time payment of $2,000. And people loved it. I don't care if they were high-paying people or lowest salary person in the place. They loved it. We actually timed it so that it was right before Christmas. So emotionally felt really good about maybe funding some of your Christmas activities. And so I had presented that a couple of years ago to this board, and I know we did it. And in conversations that I've had with the faculty and staff representatives, they gave me feedback after that happened that it was extremely welcome, extremely welcome. This appears to be similar to that. The 2% addition kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit too. I was a little bit like, why would we be doing that? But let's remember it's a one-time payment. And we've got to have it in our hearts to compensate people, even if it's just one time, while we gather more data to fix the bigger problem. And so that's my thought on it.
Yeah, I concur. We got to reward our folks.
I'd like to call for the question.
Yes, so a call for the amended motion. Again, the amended part was that by March 2022, a feasibility study be conducted and presented to determine whether a recurring salary increase can begin starting in the 2022 and 2023 year for all employees. So I request a motion.
Is there a call for a request to remove the 2%?
No.
I would.
I know that the motion that's on the floor is that.
We can't amend a motion.
We have to, Pam.
You can request an amendment, and then we would vote on the amendment. And then if it is successful, we would add that amendment to the motion or entertain a different motion.
Then I would like to make the amendment that we give the $2,000 bonus and remove the 2% as higher and just give everybody a flat $2,000 as the bonus. So I would like to make that as a motion to amend the previous motion. Thank you.
And then needs a second in regular voting.
It needs a second, yes.
I would second that.
Okay.
All right, this will be a roll call vote to determine whether the amendment removing the 2% will be successful. Chair Henson?
No.
Vice Chair Damaris?
Yes.
Secretary Fletcher?
No.
Regent Allen?
No.
Regent Finan?
No.
Regent Foltz?
Yes.
Regent Simon?
No.
Regent Girdler?
No.
Regent Herdink?
No.
Regent Martin?
No.
Regent McFadden?
No.
Regent Stevens?
Yes.
Regent Thompson?
No.
And Regent Wells?
Yes.
All right. So you have 1, 2, 3 votes for yes, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a half for no. Is that correct? Excuse me, 8.5. So the motion carries.
Okay. So then the original amended motion that I presented is still on the table, so I request a motion. I make a motion, I request a second for that.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, James Lee. So now we're ready for that vote.
Okay, so here we go with the original motion vote. Chair Henson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Damaris.
Yes.
Secretary Fletcher.
Yes.
Regent Allen.
Yes.
Regent Finan.
Yes.
Regent Foltz.
Yes.
Regent Simon.
Yes.
Regent Girdler.
Yes.
Regent Herdink.
Yes.
Regent Martin.
Yes.
Regent McFadden.
Yes.
Regent Stevens.
Yes.
Regent Thompson.
Yes.
And Regent Wells.
Yes.
So the vote is unanimous. The motion carries.
All right, thank you. So there's one more action item, but before I present it, I'll give you a little color because it's related to the budget. So let me first give you a couple of highlights that I'm obligated to make sure are in the minutes with regards to the March 31st budget, which is that we received obviously the financial statements, and of note is that total revenues and appropriated fund balances were $787 million, or 87% of the budget, which is a good thing. As of March 31st, we exceeded the budget. And then revenues and expenses were at $597 million, or 66% of the budget, so slightly lower than expected, which is also a very good thing, which resulted in a favorable net position of $769.4 million. Again, that's of March 31st. So we received that, and then we also talked about the 2021 through 2022 budget. So with regards to this item, there was a significant amount of materials provided, and I can simply sum it up by saying we received an increase in state appropriations. So for the first time in KCTCS's history, the budget exceeded $1 billion. So therefore, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I would like to request a motion to adopt the 21-22 annual budget, which is effective from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. So, Madam Chair, request a motion.
So moved.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ms. Duncan, if you want to do the vote, please.
Chair Henson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Damaris,
Yes.
Secretary Fletcher,
Yes.
Regent Allen,
Yes.
Regent Finan,
Yes.
Regent Foltz,
Yes.
Regent Simon,
Yes.
Regent Girdler,
Yes.
Regent Herding,
Yes.
Regent Martin,
Yes.
Regent McFadden,
Yes.
Regent Stevens,
Yes.
Regent Thompson,
Yes.
and Regent Wells.
Yes.
The motion is unanimous and therefore carries.
All right, thank you. And the last and final item is just informational. We had a meeting on June 7th, the Finance Committee, to review several proposals for an external audit firm to perform our internal audit function. And we settled on one firm. The procurement to payment services team was directed to hire that audit firm once we receive their best and final proposal. And I believe we expect that this afternoon, Wendell?
Yes.
Okay.
They have sent us their best and final proposal.
Oh, yeah,
We have
okay.
sent them a contract to sign, and hopefully by the close of the day, we'll be under contract.
All right, and then or Dr. Zarapata just send an email out to the board, please. Okay. And Madam Chair, unless there are any questions, this concludes my report.
Are we able to release the name of the firm yet?
We would prefer to have that signed contract.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send something tonight.
Okay,
And Chair
perfect.
Allen, I do have one question.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
invitation of all board members to participate in the Finance Committee, whether you're on it or not. Yesterday, during the Finance Committee, I know a lot of folks were here and heard it, but what is the protocol for discussion if you're not at the table? Are folks in the galley allowed to ask questions and entertain discussion? I'm not sure of the process. with
I'll
that.
direct that to you, parliamentarian.
Yes, they simply need to ask to be recognized, and then if the chair of the committee recognizes them, they are available to speak.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Good question.
That is
That's it.
why I was so quiet yesterday, by the way. I was not aware of the protocol, so thank you for clarifying.
And I think having everybody available is something that we've learned that is really valuable. And that's the time for discussion and
Right.
thrashing things out
Yeah.
as opposed to here. All right, now I'm going to say let's take a break, okay?
Yes,
Go for it.
Goodness.
Okay, Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a much briefer presentation to make than Regent Allen had, but I do want to commend Damon for his work and diligence on a lot of complex issues and topics there within the Finance Committee. We had a good meeting yesterday with the Academic Affairs and Curriculum Committee. Dr. McCall and Dr. Williams both presented some really good information that was on the consent agenda that you have already seen. We did have one really good action item that was broken into 2 separate votes, and I anticipate that we need to do that here today as well. But we heard from the Big Sandy Community and Technical College, as well as Bluegrass Community and Technical College yesterday on a new program that they're wanting to institute, an Associate in Applied Science and Cybersecurity. This has tracks in secure coding, network defense, cyber forensics, cyber science and certificates in secure coding fundamentals, secure coding advanced work, and all the like. You can read that in your packet. I won't go through all of that, but as you might imagine, given the many headlines that we've seen over the last year or so, this is something that I'm so proud of KCTCS as well as these particular campuses for pursuing this endeavor. I think it's going to pay great dividends for those particular regions as well as the Commonwealth of Kentucky as a whole. Big Sandy Community and Technical College had their staff on hand as well as Pikeville Medical Center commending and complimenting this work. As many of you all know from that region, Pikeville Medical Center is a regional powerhouse over there, so it's great to see that support. Also, Bluegrass Community and Technical College had their staff on hand, and University of Kentucky was there also contributing to the work at hand. I'd be happy to answer any questions within this cybersecurity program or also defer to Dr. Williams. But on behalf of the Academic Affairs and Curriculum Committee, I would like to ask for a motion, and that motion being that the Board of Regents approve the Associate in Applied Science in Cybersecurity.
So moved.
Second.
We'll take this motion together, so you'll have to say yes, yes, or no, no, because I'm going to say Big Sandy and BCTC. So, Chair Henson.
Yes, yes.
Vice Chair Damaris.
Yes, yes.
Secretary Fletcher.
Yeah.
Regent Allen.
See, we.
Regent Finan.
I can't follow that. Yes, yes.
Regent Foltz.
Aye, aye.
Regent Simon.
See, we.
Regent Girdler.
Yes, yes.
Regent Herding.
Yes, yes.
Regent Martin.
Heck, yes.
Regent McFadden.
Yes and yes.
Regent Stevens.
Yep.
Regent Thompson.
This is so amazing. Yes, yes.
And Regent Wells.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. The 2 motions are approved unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. I love to see a lighthearted approach to these type of things, especially after some of the discussions that we've had. I think that's a wonderful thing about this particular Board of Regents, the ability to have those tough discussions, ask for a lot of good information, but also have a good time and find humor in doing it. I think that's wonderful. That is all of it from an action item perspective. Also just want to update the full board on some of Dr. McCall's great work from the Student Services report. She had an all academic team video that was displayed, and I just want to make mention of how powerful I think these videos are, how great they are as an asset to be able to tell the great story that KCTCS has to tell. I agree with Dr. Serapata that we are the best kept secret in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And I look forward to seeing the profile being raised. And, they always say somebody's going to tell your story, so it might as well be you. So we may not like the story other people are telling on us, so we need to make sure that we're telling it on ourselves without question. Also, Dr. McCall highlighted a lot of wonderful mental health initiatives taking place within KCTCS. She provided a great financial aid review. One particular statistic I thought was interesting was that over 75% of the students within KCTCS are receiving assistance in some form or fashion. Also, she gave a great update on the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, which is better known as HERF, but that also includes some of the coronavirus relief funds. Also, we talked about the System Office Strategic Enrollment Plan, and then also another great update on the diversity initiatives that have been undertaken by KCTCS. A lot of great work taking place within this committee, as well as all the staff here at KCTCS. And Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to present. And that concludes my presentation.
Are there any questions or comments? I would like just to give a shout out to this Dr. McCall and all these different things. Since I've been on the board, you pulled together all the financial aid services and streamlined that. And I think for those of us who have contact with smaller colleges, you know, this has really been an incredible accomplishment. And thank you for that. And as we heard from the video, while people stayed in school during the pandemic, mental health issues came up a whole lot. And I think having these provisions, that the app that we saw, it's just so important because we teach the whole student. So I wanted to give a shout out to those essential services.
Madam Chair, if I can make a comment, please.
Yes.
I was shocked yesterday, and it resonated with me when Ms. Adams said that 64% of students drop out not because of finances, but because of mental health issues. I thought that was very powerful. Mm-hmm. So
it's just where we are. So how we handle our students, you know, it's the holistic approach. So thank you. Thank you, Chair Girdler. Okay. Any other questions or discussions? Okay, now it is now time for our annual officer elections. In order to proceed, I'd like to call for the following motion. The Board of Regents elect members for the positions of Chair, Vice Chair, and Secretary of the Board for a one-year term beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Wendy made the motion. Karen Fine seconded. I would like to call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So the motion passed unanimously. Before we begin, let me note that the terms expire, the present officers expired June 30th, 2021. Section 2.1 of the KCTCS Board of Regents bylaw specifies that the board elected chair, vice chair, and secretary from its membership for a one-year term. Based on statute, bylaws, and our current election procedures, elections must occur annually. A chair may not serve for more than 2 consecutive one-year terms, but there is no term limit for vice chair, secretary. I will say this was a law that was made a couple of years ago. Mr. Peoples was chair for 4 years, and Marcia Roth, I think, was chair for 4 years, and most people were chair for 2-year terms. So this was a change made, I believe, because there was a problem at one big urban institution with that. So that's the history of one-year elections. So we will start with nominations for chair, followed by vice chair, then secretary. You may nominate yourself or someone else. If nominated by someone, you will need to accept or decline the nomination. Once nominations for the given position have been made and there are no more, I will close the floor and we will proceed with floor speeches. Each candidate has 2 speeches to explain why he or she would be chosen for the position. No supporting documents, rebuttals, or reservations, extensions of time will be allowed. The winning candidate will be determined by a simple majority vote to be announced by the parliamentarian. In the event of a tie, the chair will ask the voting regents to again vote by the same sign. All regents appointed and elected are eligible for any position. Relevant experience and time on the board shall be given due consideration, but there are no qualifications necessary to be considered. The vice chair is not a chair-elect. If a regent is nominated for a position but not elected for that position, he or she may be nominated for the next position until all positions are filled. Prior to moving to a nomination in the full process, I would like to ask Pam Duncan, parliamentarian, to discuss the previous election processes approved by the Board of Regents.
Yes, having reviewed the process, I do believe that there are several problematic areas in the process that was developed previously and approved by the board. The most problematic, however, is the balloting provisions. While they are not specifically identified as secret ballots, the vote is not taken in the public meeting because the ballots are essentially not provided to the public until 3 days after the meeting. So that puts kind of a hurdle in the public's way to be able to know in real time and potentially object or ask for comment at that time what each individual regent has voted. And additionally, it set up a procedure whereby if somebody was attending by, a regent was attending by teleconference, which is permitted, they would have a different voting process because they would likely have to vote out loud by roll call. So the preferred method is to actually use a roll call vote so that the public is aware of not only how the board votes, but also how the board, each individual regent has voted. So at this time, I believe it is appropriate, since the board did officially approve the previous process, to call for a motion to suspend paragraph 4, which is the balloting process. And whoever would like to make that motion, the motion would be the Board of Regents suspend the voting procedures, specifically paragraph 4, permitting the use of ballots and follow-up inspection thereof, and proceed with a roll call vote to determine the duly elected officers for 2021-2022.
May I have
So
moved. Okay. James Lee moved. Wendy second.
I'll second.
I would like to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. So Pam Duncan, parliamentarian, will be conducting roll call, tallying votes, and announcing the winners. Okay, are there any questions before we proceed?
I have a question, and maybe for the parliamentarian. Are all members sitting here available or allowed to be nominated?
Yeah, well, those who no longer are, those who are term expired totally. So they've had all of their terms served, they may not run. However, anyone who is eligible to be in the, on the Board of Regents for a follow-up term may go ahead and run. That is an eligibility requirement, that you actually be available or be appointed. All members should know and should discuss that whether an individual is in that position and whether that would prevent them from serving out their terms. Because if you do have someone who is not reappointed or not reelected or whatever, then at that point you would have to have elections again if they are not appointed or reelected.
And one more point of clarification, if we nominate someone, are we allowed to tell why we are nominating that person?
Yes, you may tell why. That's all part of discussion. What I would suggest is that you take all nominations for each position, so chair, and then discuss the chair as you go forward. So if you can, it's really up to the chair, but it seems to me that there is room for getting everyone out and then discussing each individual as you do that.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to open the floor for nominations for chair.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to nominate Regent Damaris.
Okay. Are there other nominations?
I would like to nominate Regent Stevens.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, I will close the floor for nominations for chair.
At this point, I would go ahead and ask the two people who nominated to explain their nominations, and then the procedures provide for the people who have been nominated to give their reasons why they should be chair.
Are there comments allowed from the floor?
You know, I don't see that in our procedures, Pam. I just see each candidate has 2 minutes to explain, no supporting documents.
Right, that's what I'm talking about, the 2 minutes. But every board member has the right to discuss the members. So you could flip-flop it and say 2 minutes for each person, or you can have the people who nominated go ahead and discuss. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But either way, you have the individuals who have been nominated. They have the ability to spend their 2 minutes talking about why they should be there, and then other regents should have the ability, particularly those who nominated, to give their reasons why those people should be the chair.
Okay. So we'll start with the 2 minutes. And are you the timekeeper? Hannah?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Lisa?
Thank you, and I appreciate the nomination, Regent Fletcher. I'd like to state why I think I would be qualified and be the best candidate to be the chair of this board this next year. On this board, I've served for 5 years as a member of the Finance and Academic Committees, a member of the President Evaluation Committee, the chair of the Finance Committee, and for the past 2 years, the vice chair of this Board of Regents. I've been a key contributor to changes in board operating procedures, some of which are in process today, including a full review and update of the board policies and procedures, which is currently underway, and hoping that we can close that by the end of December. I've been part of the process and discussion with fellow board members for this open and transparent process of officer election that we are in the part of right now. I've participated, and particularly this past year, with the chair of the board and the secretary of the board in a leadership team to assist this board through some very challenging and difficult decisions. And I think that team approach, using the officers as 3 folks who can work together to bring forth some thoughts and ideas that we've collaborated on, has really helped. I know it's helped me, and I believe it's helped Gail and Wendy as well. I have contributed to changes in ways that we recognize faculty. The $2,000 stipend, as I mentioned, was an idea that I brought forth a couple of years ago. I agree with Regent Allen relative to the Finance Committee. And in fact, with the changes that we've made, where we hold Finance Committee and then Academic Committee so that all members can be in attendance, I actually would propose, under my leadership, that the Finance Committee be a committee of the whole. I think the topics are too important. The strategic decisions that we make, the budget is one of the most important things we do, and I feel that that committee should actually be a committee of the whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you. James Lee?
I want to thank all of the Board of Regents. I know there's some questions and concerns about my term expires at the end of June, and that's a governmental procedure, and I can't control that, and neither can you, as of some 12 to 15 regions. And as Lisa says, is that we've worked together. We've done a lot of important changes and ideas. And for my 6 years, 4 years, I sat over kind of in a corner because I wasn't allowed to participate in a lot of things. The last 2 years under Chairman Henson, she gave me the opportunity to do those. The process of reappointment is what it is. And I'm a believer also is that if Board of Regent members are eligible to be reappointed, no matter what party they're from, and they have worked hard and done a good job, they should be reappointed. My main concern is student enrollment and taking care of our employees. I think that's my theme. You've heard it in the last day or so. And I agree with the Finance Committee should be a committee of whole, but I also believe the Executive Committee needs to be not only the 3 elected officers, but also those chairmen of those various committees. And committee assignments, individual Board of Region members need to have the opportunity to say what committee they want to be on, type of thing. So thank you. I hope I get your support. I hope I am reappointed, but I will work tirelessly for this system. This is the best kept secret in the state of Kentucky. Thank you.
Okay. So, Pam, we have not had this procedure of having comments. So, do I just throw the floor open to comments?
Yes, I would start with the 2 nominating regents, Regent Fletcher and Regent Wells, and then proceed for anyone else who wants to be recognized.
Okay, Wendy.
Well, the good news for all of us here today, I think, is that we're going to win either way. But I did try to be very thoughtful in my nomination of Regent Damaris, and I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts. Not many of us at this table, as well versed as we are in our areas of expertise, could ever say that we've been in charge of an $80 million budget. While that doesn't come anywhere near the $900 million or nearly $1 billion budget now for KCTCS, I do think that Regent Damaris has a great grasp on those very big numbers. She also is an expert in technology and data, and other than Damon Allen, who makes a living doing it, is an expert in finance like no one else at this table. I know that she has a heart for the mission. I've heard it in her testimony about helping our faculty, retaining the best and most talented folks, about recruiting students and changing lives in Kentuckians. And as a mom of a service member, I know that she also has a heart for veterans, which also grabs mine and twists it just a little. I've seen her relationship with the staff and Dr. Zarapata. In fact, my first introduction to Dr. Zarapata was by Regent Damaris in Northern Kentucky. We were all sitting in a little restaurant, and she said, "You see that guy over there having a drink at the bar? He's the smartest guy in this room tonight." That was years ago, but it turned out that everything that Regent Damaris has ever advised me on has come to fruition. It was true. She is honest to a fault. She'll be an excellent ally to Dr. Zarapata because she's well-versed in conversations with our state legislators, because she understands the statutes. She is an expert in policy and Robert's rules. Most of the time, she's just keeping me in order. She's led the charge to update and revise our board policies, and for that, I'm thankful. And as she mentioned, she has chaired several committees, serving on academics, executive committee, finance. She's an expert in efficiency. Lisa is a consummate professional, and while she doesn't just go along to get along, she isn't afraid to ask the tough questions, but also always look for the common ground. This is Lisa's last year on the board, and I'd be honored to see her at our helm. For this and many more reasons, I humbly nominate Regent Lisa Damaris.
Thank you. Mark?
Well, I do think we have 2 good choices today to choose from, and I go back to, I guess, the experience of Regent Stevens and as a superintendent of schools and so on, and running huge budgets and things like that. And that was the reason for my nomination.
I would just like to echo Regent Fletcher's comments, but what I would pull out of that is Lisa is not a follower. She's a true leader. And I think all of us has seen her spontaneously come up with solutions to some very complex problems as we discuss this around the table. And that's not because it has just come to her, it's because she thinks about it. She looks at the data ahead of time, and she brings that experience to really drive solutions forward for KCTCS. So I'm fully supportive of Lisa as chair, and I think she'd be the best solution for KCTCS as we enter even more complex situations on the financial, the tech side, and the student enrollment.
Thank you. You all ready to vote? Okay. This will be a roll call vote.
And I'm going to call on Assistant Secretary Rivera to assist me with ensuring the vote is correct. Chair Henson.
James Lee Stevens.
Vice Chair Damaris.
Regent Damaris.
Secretary Fletcher.
Regent Damaris.
Regent Allen.
Regent Allen, Regent Stevens.
Regent Finan.
Regent Damaris.
Regent Foltz.
Regent Damaris.
Regent Simon.
Regent Damaris.
Regent Girdler.
Regent Damaris.
Regent Herdink.
Regent Stevens.
Regent Martin.
Regent Stevens.
Regent McFadden.
Regent Damaris.
Regent Stevens.
Regent Stevens.
Regent Thompson.
Regent Damaris.
All right. Give us just a second while I calculate the vote.
Did we miss week? I think we missed Regent Wells. Excuse me?
Pam?
Yes.
I believe we missed Regent Wells.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Regent Wells.
Regent Stevens.
So sorry. No, I've lost. Okay, so we have 5 votes for James Lee and 6 votes for Regent Damaris.
I'm going to give Lisa my boards on fire, effective, inspiring leaders to raise money joyfully. Ben, I read every part of this. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Ben,
great.
I'll call you for a meeting next week.
Yeah, that's great. Get ready for that retreat. They serve good food. Okay, now we will go to Vice Chair. I'd like to open the floor for nominations for Vice Chair.
Chair Henson, I would like to nominate James Lee Stevens for Vice Chair.
Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Barry Martin for Vice Chair.
Are there any other?
I'd like to nominate Chris Girdler for Vice Chair.
Okay. Oh, you have to accept or decline. Everybody has to accept or decline.
I'm honored, Regent Fletcher, by the nomination, but I will very respectfully decline. Thank you, though.
All right. I will now close the floor for nominations. For vice chair,
I think I will respectfully decline as well.
okay. All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Fine, that's the way to win the election. That's great. Nobody run, I accept.
So do we have to vote again?
You can vote by consensus since there's only one. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. All right.
All right.
James Lee Stevens is now vice chair.
All right.
Congratulations.
All right, now we'll have nominations for secretary.
I would like to nominate Regent Fletcher for secretary.
Are there any other nominations?
I'm like James Lee, that's the way to win an election.
I would like to nominate Damon Allen.
Or not.
I'm sorry, Wendy.
Well, Barry, we're going to play this game, so I appreciate it, but I'll respectfully and humbly decline as well and let Wendy continue in her role unless someone else gets nominated here.
All right, so I will close the floor for, so do we take another consensus?
Another consensus vote, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, I'm humbled.
Oh, see, I have more books. Do you have this one?
I have that.
You have this one,
I have that,
purple book,
yes.
but do you have this one?
No.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, thank you.
And James Lee, I'll pass these along to you also. I think I've gotten rid of all my books now, so thank you. Great.
These have earmarks here.
Oh, that's because that's where I thought they were important.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so you can just read my highlighting.
Those are called Gail's notes, not Cliff's notes.
Yeah, so Ben will, we're talking about raising other funds, so there you are. You can shake people down. 79% participation, we can do better than that. Okay, so I'd like to call for a motion to go into closed session pursuant to KRS 61810-1C.
Chair Henson, we have one more motion.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I
yes.
missed that. All right. I would like to call for another motion after talking with, after Pam pointed out some of the problems with the procedures that we adopted. I have a motion that the Board of Regents direct General Counsel's Office and the Assistant Secretary of the Board to review and assist the 2021-2022 executive officers and full Board of Regents to adopt and implement new nominating and voting procedures for the future. We just need to review if there's any other problems.
So moved.
Move, second. Thank you. Damon Allen moved and Karen Fine is second. I'd like to call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we thank you again, Pam, for all your eagle eyes. It's really been helpful. I'd like to call for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61810-1C, propose or pending litigation in which KCTCS may be a party. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Wendy moved. Karen second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passed and we're going into executive session at 11:17. motion, please?
So moved.
Barry Martin,
Second.
Lisa Damaris seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. We reconvened in open session at 11:37. Our next agenda item is a ratification of the contract. The executive officers of the KCTCS Board of Regents held a special meeting via Teams May the 6th to discuss the terms and negotiations for the contract of the new KCTCS president, Dr. Paul Zarapata. At the end of that meeting, they voted to approve the negotiated contract and to move forward with bringing the contract to the full board for a vote. I am so sorry. I don't know what I have done to set that up. So I would like to call for the following motion that the KCTCS Board of Regents ratify the employment contract for Dr. Paul Zarapata, having been negotiated and approved by and between the executive officers of the KCTCS Board of Regents and Dr. Zarapata, and that said ratification accept all terms as negotiated and memorialized, including but not limited to the contract's effective date of May 16, 2021.
So moved.
Damon moved.
Second.
As a reminder to the KCTCS Board bylaws, Section 8.2.1, matters on which members may vote. All members of the board may vote on all matters coming before the board for consideration, except that pursuant to KRS 164-289 and OHG 01-8, the 2 members representing the faculty and the 2 members representing non-teaching personnel shall not vote on individual compensation matters for themselves or other individual employees for KCTCS. I'd like to call for the vote. Ms. Duncan, could you do the roll call, please?
Chair Henson,
Yes?
Chair-elect Damaris,
Yes.
Secretary Fletcher,
Yes.
Regent Allen,
Yes.
Regent Finan,
Yes.
Regent Simon,
Yes.
Regent Girdler,
Yes.
Regent Martin,
Yes.
Regent McFadden,
Yes.
Regent Stevens.
Yes.
All right. Of those voting members, the motion is unanimous and carries.
Regent Wells and Regent Thompson were not.
Right, there.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You said that, didn't you?
That's okay. That's okay.
It's been a long day.
It has.
All right. So the next meeting of the KCTCS Board of Regents will be September 16th through 19th, 2021. We'll say goodbye at that time to Angela, Mark, and Tammy. Is that it? Yeah. Wow, that's a trip. Oh, okay.
You're still on the fence.
Okay, so I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the meeting adjourned at 11:41, and we will adjourn to the atrium.
Mary, Terry, where are we going?